Well, hello and welcome to another edition of 907 Sports, where it is all Alaska all the time. I'm Jordan Rodenberger, calling the plays in this one. Thank you for joining us as summer still very much going strong here throughout the state, which we love to see. And if you're tuning in live from Facebook or YouTube, let us know where you're checking in from, whether it's up north in western Alaska, the interior, south central, southeast, or on the peninsula. Let us know. And we actually will start on the peninsula with the pride of Homer, Alaska, as it's hard to believe 1 year ago, Kristen Faulkner, August 4th, 2024, she shocked the cycling world and won a stunning gold medal in the road race at the Paris Olympics, launching her into stardom. And she went on to win another gold medal just a few days later, as we remember, before defending her title in the national road race. And this was all gearing up for the highly anticipated Tour de France Femmes this summer, where an early crash and a lingering illness knocked her out about midway through the race. And in an exclusive one-on-one interview with Alaska's news source, Faulkner spoke with us about all the above and much more, the highs and lows of her Olympic glory on the 1 year anniversary of her historic gold medal moment.
How has, your life changed from a year ago, from, just being in the spotlight to people being interested to just your day to day? How has your life changed over the last year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there's just a lot more media on me. I go to these races and there's a lot more, broadcasters that want to do interviews with me. The camera's on me a lot more. I think definitely, that it takes some getting used to. I grew up in Homer, so I'm a small town girl at heart. Like I never wanted to be famous. I just wanted to ride my bike fast. And so I think it's definitely, taken some getting used to. And I've had to set some boundaries with the media and say, I need to focus on racing. That's my priority. I think the second thing is it's been actually really positive to hear from so many people who have young girls that want to get into biking. I think it's, they say I've inspired them, but I think it goes both ways. It's really inspiring for me and motivating for me to see how many young girls are interested in cycling, actually men and women, to be honest, and not just young, but also a lot of middle-aged people who've gotten into cycling. And who maybe, I had a few people reach out and they started writing their book that they hadn't done for a long time. And I think people just feeling like it's never too late to pursue a goal or to pursue a dream. And that's incredibly empowering and fulfilling. And then I think, just the last thing is, when when there's more, when you have more accomplishments, I think there's higher pressure and expectations on you as well. And so I think for this year, just really, I've actually had to take a bit of a kind of a reset year just because last year was so intense. And so I'm kind of going into next year, setting high expectations again, knowing that there's pressure on my shoulders. And I think there was a little bit of that this year, but people close to me understood that this was a reset year for me. But going into next year, definitely having some really big goals and ambitions and feeling rested going into it will be really important.
We see all the highs, the glories, the pictures, the gold. But something other Olympian athletes and just athletes in general speak of is, the moments that we don't see, maybe the harder, more challenging time, the dark times. Any of those experiences or how you overcame those? Just
you see, I always say the media shows the 1%, which is you on the podium, you winning races, but the winning actually happens in the 99%, which is when you're at training camps and doing things that no one is watching. And I think for me, there's been, there was a lot of sacrifice going into the Olympics. I spent a lot of time at team camps away from friends and family. I spent a lot of time at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado. And so I think that can be a somewhat isolating experience when you are really going all in and you're kind of away from friends and family. I live across the world. So I think that's one of the sacrifices that I've had to make. I think the other really difficult times is that once you perform really well, the expectations are quite high. And this year at Nationals, again, I think there's a lot of expectations for me to win the time trial, and I got second. It had been like a pretty stressful lead into it, but nonetheless, I just didn't have a good race, and sometimes that happens. And so having to, realize that sometimes you're disappointing people, and people have really high expectations of you, and you also can be disappointing yourself. And just, I think the more accomplished you get, the higher the pressure to perform. And so when you don't, it can feel like a disappointment, even if it's an incredible result. And so sometimes second place feels like a failure, and I have to kind of pinch myself and say, actually, second place is still an amazing result. I would have, given a pinky finger to place second in nationals a few years ago. So I think that is something people don't see, is just that, even if reality is amazing, sometimes the internal struggle can still be there. And that's something people don't see. And then I think also when you don't perform, like at the Tour de France, I went in really sick, and it was a really tough race for me physically, to kind of, I think it's one of the hardest athletic competitions in our. You have to be 100% going in. And if you go in and you're already fatigued, it's quite disastrous and difficult. And so to go into that experience and then to have it be emotionally and physically one of the most challenging things I've ever done, and to have cameras on you the entire time while you're failing at it, while you're feeling, really tough, I think you're not only struggling and dealing with the challenges of not feeling well, but you're doing it in the public eye. And I think that's something that can be really challenging as well. And, people might think, oh, she's used to being in the public eye, but I don't think anyone ever builds complete comfort with having a camera in your face when you're, and ready for tears. So I think those are all some of the challenges people don't really see.
This past week has been, full of emotions and highs and lows. I guess I don't even know where to begin, but I guess we could start with, the crash in the second stage. How difficult was that to go through? And I guess kind of walking me through what had actually happened on there, and just kind of having to try to bounce back from that to start with.
Yeah, it was a really unfortunate. I actually, I was already quite tired going into the tour, and the expectation is that I would get a little better every day, actually. And I was riding along the road, there was a curb, and a girl hit the curb and flew off her bike and flew into me. So I actually wasn't doing anything wrong in the moment, but that's bike racing. Sometimes, you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and sometimes you just get a little bit of bad luck. And that's a part of the sport that you kind of just have to accept as part of it. So yeah, I flew into the bushes. I broke my bike. It was a really nasty crash. Unfortunately, it wasn't on TV, so I don't have any footage of it for you. But then I had to spend the whole day chasing back, which was quite exhausting to do alone when I was already not feeling well. And I think that was really what set me over the edge, because I think it would have been a really, really tough race if things had gone perfectly. And so when things go abnormally wrong, it kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. And at that point, I realized that the race was not going to get any easier for me.
Just anything about, your homecoming from, of the Olympics earlier this year, or just love from the state or from Homer itself over the last year, or anything to mention or shout out there.
Yeah, I get so much strength from all of the support that I get from Alaska and from the fans. And one thing that I've really come to learn is that, the people back home are going to be there for me, whether I have a great race or a bad race. And it is really motivating to hear from people from Alaska and just support me all the time, whether it's winning the Olympic road race or not being able to finish the Tour de France. So thank you to everyone for just being there and supporting me. And hopefully, we can continue to support all of the Alaskan athletes. And it makes me feel really proud to be part of such a strong community who really watches out for each other.
When will the next time, I know we're going to rest and recover for now, but when will the next time folks can cheer you on, or what can we expect you back on the bike?
Yeah, I think I'll be racing Tour Romandy on August 15th through 17th. So I hope you'll tune in. It's a 4-day race in Switzerland, and you can watch it. It'll be streamed online, so I hope you'll tune in.
And that is just part of the interview, and you can check out the full version of it on our website, alaskasnewssource.com. Worth checking out for sure. A captivating interview from one of Alaska's top athletes at the top of her game right now, coming off a pair of gold medals. So we'll keep an eye out on Faulkner as her career continues. And so many Alaskan pros to talk about. Let's continue on with the next one here with Alissa Pili getting a WNBA bounce back opportunity. She signed a 7-day contract with the Los Angeles Sparks, this coming about 3 weeks after she was waived by the Minnesota Lynx. They drafted her in the first round in 2024, 8th overall, but here is a second chance for one of Alaska's top women's basketball players and athletes overall, reunited with her University of Utah coach, Lynn Roberts. She's now the head coach of the Sparks, and Pili had her first opportunity to potentially play in her new purple and gold threads, but did not appear in last night's win over the Indiana Fever for the Sparks. But the next opportunity we may see her is tomorrow against the Connecticut Sun, so we'll see if that debut happens, and of course we'll be following along and keeping you updated there. And meanwhile, for another Alaskan pro, that'd be Claire DeGeorge. She's a champion on multiple levels, and this week she's passing along her knowledge and inspiration to youth skaters at her home rinks, hosting a 3-day camp for girls hockey players and bringing other pro players along with her to highlight that professional women's hockey league. When Claire DeGeorge learned to skate around the rinks of Anchorage, she didn't have someone like herself to look up to.
No, it's funny. Even being here at UAA, I always dreamed of being a UAA player up till I was like 10 years old. But I just didn't have the girls to watch.
But that didn't prevent her from becoming one of Alaska's top women's hockey players.
There's a turnover. DeGeorge on the backhand scores.
A champion at the NCAA level with Ohio State.
Straight off to Claire DeGeorge from Alaska. Anchorage can be so proud.
And in the recently established Professional Women's Hockey League.
Being able to have that dream and all these kids seeing that, but hopefully with us being up here, now they know that it exists, they can get that dream and chase it themselves.
Yep, try to score. You're coming back to score.
Becoming that role model she didn't have growing up by hosting a 3-day camp for girls hockey players in her hometown.
I was really excited to meet Claire because she's really amazing at hockey, and I was excited to meet some new people and some new coaches.
I feel like it gives girls in general more confidence to see that there's girls who can make it as far as they did, so it gives them a little confidence boost.
Exactly what she said.
And bringing 7 other pro hockey players through Strong Girls United, aiming to empower girls through sports and mentorship.
I think overall across the country you're going to see like a boom in female hockey just because of this league and the kind of the notoriety of it. So I think the ability to bring like 7 athletes out here that play professionally and give these girls something to look up to and aspire to is only going to help grow the game in Alaska as well as the rest of the country.
As DeGeorge continues to carve ice and break barriers in women's hockey.
Being able to be out here for these young girls and show them that the women can do it is something very special to me, and I'm very proud to be Alaskan and show them that. And I cannot wait till there's one of these little girls playing in the league in a couple years.
Very cool. Shout out to Claire DeGeorge there. She just signed with the Toronto Scepters of the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, set to drop the puck on its 3rd season as a league this winter. So we'll be keeping an eye out on DeGeorge as well. And speaking of hockey and professional hockey in that matter, we've seen a lot of appearances of the Seattle Kraken really since their establishment a few years ago. They're coming up here hosting clinics or giving back in some way or another, and sometimes they come up here and yes, fish like other tourists and people that come and visit our lovely state here. And here is John Hayden, a forward for the Seattle Kraken. He's the center actually, and he was hanging out with Bowie the Mascot, fishing the Katmai National Forest there. And yes, as you can imagine, highly populated bear area. They do see a grizzly coming to check it out. Maybe they just wanted an autograph from Hayden there, but he definitely made his presence known, even giving him a little bit of a charge there to Bowie, although no one was harmed. Everyone came out unscathed, bear, Bowie, player, everybody included. But wow, that's just a full Alaskan experience right there you'd expect, and Kraken getting the full experience. And this is something we reported on this over this past weekend, and it's really actually picked up from national news outlets today specifically. So may have seen that going viral on Facebook or other social media there, because it was that crazy of a moment, but very Alaskan, very true to us. So stay safe, be smart out there when you are fishing, because it is very hot right now. So I'm sure a lot of y'all folks are getting out there about this time of year, early August. So of course we'll have some fishing reports coming your way, and I'll be checking in with you guys here in a little bit. If you're watching live for the late edition, of course we'll be talking some high school football, because we are just 9 days away from kickoff of week 1. But Who's Counting, of course, definitely not us, but we'll have more coming up in the coming weeks. And for now, that will do it for this edition of 907 Sports. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.